Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and try to walk you through today's lesson as well as kind of do a recap of the last two lessons because I think that with us still trying to figure out like timing and things like that, and with us just getting back on a normal, like regular schedule without map testing and everything, we are still trying to get everything to fall into place like routine wise. And obviously, with me not being there, throws a little snafu in a couple of things, but we'll get it done. No big deal. We always make it work. So I want to go ahead and just walk you through the notes that you have in your notebook thus far, okay? So before you go any further on this video, make sure that you have downloaded the, I think it's the session 3, no. Yes, session 3 notes, because I'm going to be going over those as well as just recapping 1s and 2, okay? So let's go ahead and look there in Notability. So far, guys, you've had 2 lessons, but then we're having a third today. And then I'm going to kind of tell you exactly what it is that you're expected to have in your notes and what you should have worked on thus far, okay? So this is the beginning of our notes. You know, we put it right after our growth goals there. We got session 1, that was just about brainstorming ideas. So the first one was brainstorming people. We went through and we did that. We had small moments for them. And then we did the places, and I have that Jack Gantos map in there. I kind of drew one myself of my childhood home. Didn't get a whole lot on there, but got some ideas on there. And then we recapped that those were the 2 things that we did in that session. People that matter and places that matter, right? Then you were supposed to go ahead and choose one of the ideas from one of those 2 brainstormings, and you were supposed to start free writing another narrative, right? So, and I'm sorry if I keep saying right, I'm trying to break myself of that. But so far you've got this list and you've got your map with lots of generated ideas for your personal narrative. And then you should have started writing some free writing for a narrative of a new story, okay? I want it written on this page. You can do it either handwritten or you can use the text feature and you can type in here, but I do want it in your notes because I want the work that you're doing during our sessions reflected in your notebooks. So I know some of you like to type on docs, and I know formatting is a lot better on docs than it is in here, but really you're just typing an idea. It's free writing. You're not publishing this yet, so it's okay. Just put it in here. It'll be okay. Then we went into session 2, and you guys basically just looked at these other people's writing, okay? So you had an example here. You guys looked through, you talked about what they did well in here and what you liked about it. And then we started identifying some of the different techniques that they were doing, like how was she specific and detailed? You know, she used specific dialogue in there. She had some really detailed description. Those are like the big things I want you guys to be focusing on. What can you see that people do well in their writing, and how can you apply that to your own writing as you continue to free write these narratives, okay? So at the end of that workshop, you could have done a number of things. You could have picked up where you left off on whatever you had already started writing. You could have started a brand new story, or you could have taken what you'd already written and go back and revise or rewrite something in it, okay? So at this point in time, you have at least 1 personal narrative started, maybe 2, okay? And that's okay, because the whole idea of this, guys, is not necessarily, this is just our practice round in these lessons. We are only trying out things. We are not trying to finish a narrative right now. That will come later on in our unit. So right now, you're just practicing. So it could be on a story that you're continuing. It could be on a brand new story every day. That's okay. Okay, so that asked you, what strategy were you gonna try out in your own, okay? Today's lesson is kind of flipping back to that whole let's find our perfect story, that the generating of ideas to figure out the right story to tell. And on this one, we're going to be talking about moments that really matter. And they break it down again, the people that matter, the places that matter, and then this is moments that matter. So they talk about the first and last times you did something, but they also talk about a time that you learned or you realized something. So they talk about how jotting moments that really matter, something that you learned about, something about yourself, or you learned it about somebody else as well. So they have some examples here that you guys can go over, some examples of some first times and some last times, and then times that you realize something. You'll notice down there on the realize something, those are more like, those are the lessons that they learn. So like the first one says, sometimes you need to take a risk, right? So I just said right again, I know that. But we want to think about like a time that you actually did learn that lesson. Like I'm thinking like maybe if I was terrified to go on a roller coaster, and then finally one time I did, and I realized that I'm the biggest roller coaster enthusiast that there ever was, that ever lived, right? Then I wouldn't have known that had I not taken the risk. So that could be a story about a time that I learned sometimes you need to take a risk. So the lessons down here, you're going to have to think about, what is my small moment that I relate to this lesson that I learned? When did you learn it? What happened when you learned it? Okay. Then I want you, there's another example here that you guys can check out, and then I want you guys to create your own chart like this, a first time, last time, and learned something chart on this page right here, okay? This was just a reminder here. Remember, try to put yourself into the moments when you're writing, okay? Remember, my biggest thing, paint the picture. I've told you guys that's like my big thing that I'm gonna focus on all the time, is that you really need to paint the picture for your reader, because you're in charge of making sure that they read through that story and experience that experience the same way that you did, if that makes sense. So here's what you have to do, guys. We just went through those 3 days worth of notes, okay? On those 3 days worth of notes, you need to have each of the brainstorming things complete. You also need to have selected a strategy or a technique that you want to try out in your own writing from that second session, okay? So, things like super descriptive detail, breaking down actions, adding in dialogue, things like that you're actually I'm going to make a commitment, I'm going to do this today. So then, your end result after those 3 sessions should be that you have at least one narrative that you have been adding to or revising and working on throughout the course of these sessions. You could have as many as 3 different narratives started. Either way, you get to choose that, okay? But you need to have evidence that you are writing and that you are applying the strategies in class, okay? So that's your result today. After you watch this video, you guys are gonna go back to your workstations, and that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna look in your notes, you're gonna make sure that the brainstormings are all complete, and you're gonna make sure you have at least one personal narrative started with evidence of your learning, okay? Good luck, guys.